Hiahokwana. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Lefthand. I am Taos Pueblo of Taos, New Mexico, and also Spanish. I currently serve as an AmeriCorps VISTA volunteer for the Boys and Girls Clubs in Indian Country Project. I serve in Ignacio, Colorado, at the Boys and Girls Club of the Southern Ute Indian Tribe. One-fourth. That was the fraction on my certificate of Indian blood that tied me to a reserved place at the foot of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains in northern New Mexico. Raised by a non-native and single mother, it was a challenge for me to learn about my native culture. Taos Pueblo, known as the place of the Red Willow people, is the place where my ancestors have dwelled for over 1,000 years in these beautiful adobe structures that you see behind me. There was a time when my knowledge of this group of people did not extend much beyond what I had experienced in rare visits with family, textbooks, and in movies. It was a time when I was content in not understanding my attachment because I saw no sense in chasing something that didn't seem to want me in the first place. And it was for this reason that I decided to attend Fort Lewis College in Durango, Colorado, where there is a thriving Native community made up of 24% American Indian and Alaskan Native students. On my first day, as I anxiously found a seat in Native student orientation, what may seem little to others came as a tremendous shock to me because it was the first time that I looked like everyone else in the room. My high cheekbones and my round face and my broad shoulders were suddenly a commonality among the crowd. When I was approached with the opportunity to serve as an AmeriCorps VISTA volunteer for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America Native Services Unit, I was ecstatic at the opportunity to impact the experience of Native youth, just as mine had been impacted by so many people before. During my first year of service, I mostly contributed to greater cultural understanding and information collecting processes of the Native Services Unit. My greatest accomplishment was helping to create culture cards that provided Boys and Girls Club staff with an overview of knowledge about each Native community that had an operating Boys and Girls Club. Additionally, I also helped to conduct a survey with over 70 Native organizations and their club sites within regarding the cultural programming that was taking place at their club. AmeriCorps service was, in essence, the first step in my career towards advocacy for Indian country. Through the conversations with the Native Services team and with various chief professional officers, it inspired me to continue learning about my own traditional role as a Native American Pueblo woman, as a leader and as a carrier of culture. And due to my service in Dallas, Texas, and Ignacio, Colorado, it became a goal of mine to assume positions that would help me either support or grow the nonprofit sector in Indian country as it pertains to economic development and the strengthening of tribal governance. In Indian country, there is an incredible movement taking place among Native youth to change the narrative. Indian country is a legal term that means all domestic dependent nations within the United States boundaries, inclusive of reservations, rancherias, pueblos, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian communities. Today, over 1/3 of the Native population is under the age of 18, leaving a large gap in the 15 to 19 age group. Within these numbers is a sizable young population that represents an unprecedented amount of opportunity. The Boys and Girls Clubs in Indian Country Project currently has 14 VISTA members serving in Native Boys and Girls Clubs across the country. Each of our responsibilities are very unique, but one commonality is that we all support the organization development of tiny youth-serving organizations located in smaller, more rural communities in America that tend to have higher levels of poverty and a shortage of existing youth services. Some VISTA members are working to preserve cultural knowledge, like one former VISTA from the Boys and Girls Clubs of Hawaii, who worked to create a program for club kids that would teach the Hawaiian language, about Hawaiian plants, and also other ways to perpetuate Hawaiian culture. At the Sapaic Boys and Girls Clubs in northern Maine, VISTA member Melissa Dana is currently working on creating programs for teens that would connect them to the Boys and Girls Club's kitchen through an apprenticeship program. At the Boys and Girls Club of Presque Isle, VISTA member David Gardner and VISTA alumni Fenton Jones are currently in the process of securing a multi-year Google Ad grant that will support their club. And finally, thousands of miles away in Brookings, South Dakota, is VISTA member Jameson Goetz, who is currently orchestrating a partnership between the Boys and Girls Clubs of Brookings-Moody County, which serves the Philandro Santee Sioux Indian Tribe, and the Philandro Indian School. He travels several times a week to the school to provide students with services that will produce higher educational outcomes. Providing youth in Native communities with a safe and positive environment to go to after school is a complete game changer. At Boys and Girls Club, Native youth are able to access the resources and the mentors that they need. When it comes to discussing the solutions to poverty in Indian country, it is absolutely critical to acknowledge the factors that have brought Native communities to where they are today. According to the National Congress of American Indians Policy Research Center, 23.6% of Indian country currently lives in poverty, and 32.4% of Native youth will be raised in poverty. Additionally, the suicide rate among Native youth is 3 times higher than the national average, and on some reservations, almost as 10 times as high as the national average. To understand Native youth, I challenge you to look beyond the statistic, to understand a narrative of a people that is comprised of both tragedy, honor, challenge, and resilience. Now, there's absolutely no way that I could speak to every reason for such high disparities, nor is there any way that I could speak on behalf of every Native nation and the issues that are specific to their community or region. However, I can say that Native Americans tend to experience higher health, economic, and educational disparities compared to the general population. And due to these factors, it is partnerships like that between AmeriCorps and Indian country that mean so much. The club serves as a mechanism for creating future leaders in a place that is both accepting and understanding. The club also serves as a mechanism for assisting tribes to alleviate the poverty that tends to cloud the image of Indian country by empowering their young Native people to grow in their understanding and the protection of their sovereignty and culture of their respective nations. So the question becomes, whose responsibility is it to guide Native youth in areas of leadership, education, identity, and culture? Well, that's a responsibility that I have assumed for myself and that I want to inspire other Native youth to assume for themselves as well. I can confidently say that AmeriCorps VISTA service has brought me to some incredible experiences in the right places and with the right people at critical times in my life. And it is through my service that I have come to see my culture and my community as the heroes of my story. Ta'a, thank you.